the process and why certain things are done and how it is done. So when you go back and look at the Egyptians we talk about today, the Egyptians we know of, Neterket and Zoser, Tutankhamun or whatever like that, the pyramid builders understand. They knew what the pyramids were doing. They knew the power of the pyramids. So what started to happen? They could see that the land started to become, unfertile. They can see it started to change over to desert. Remember, you read the stories when you start reading about ancient Kemet, how people started to come into Kemet because the land was fertile. They tried to escape famine. Remember, the same thing started happening inside of Kemet. Famine started to happen because the crops wasn't growing. This is why they tried to rebuild the pyramids. They tried to recreate desperately the ionosphere, the negative ions, around Kemet, so that they can keep the land fertile and so they can, keep on growing. And I don't know if they succeeded. Now you have the step pyramid of Neterket, you have the bent pyramid of Sneferu, and you have all these other pyramids that collapsed and were, I guess, later turned into tombs, some of them, or maybe they had other purposes for them, but they desperately tried to recreate the pyramids so they can do exactly what I explain and pull these negative ions out. They tried to recreate the process. This is why they did it. They seen Kemet started to turn. And, during the decline of Kemet before they was invaded by the Persians and everybody else who came in there, they may have figured it out, or they may have had a way, to sustain themselves. But this is why they started to rebuild the pyramids. Now, if it was people living underground thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, there's a chance that there are still people living underground today. Now, there were some researchers who went to the Grand Canyon to basically try to find, the whole legend of the underground city. And they basically did an interview with one of the Hopi Indians there who was talking about a time where, the Hopis or the Indians had to basically go live underground to basically survive this cataclysmic event. Now, understand, he's talking about a cataclysmic event, that happened. When you look at the whole interview, I won't put the whole thing up there, but it happened thousands of years ago. And, the Indians are very good at passing down stories. And you have to basically try to equate this timeline into the same timeline as the ancient Egyptians probably living underground, as I talked about. But now the whole thing is there were so many underground caverns and tunnels and passageways found underneath the United States. You have a lot of national parks that have caves, like crystal caves, and you have the cave, Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, Mammoth Cave in Kentucky that has, hundreds of miles of underground tunnels and caverns and everything like that. If you take a look at it, it's amazing, what they have found under there. And you gotta realize something. This is the reason why we have so many national parks in America. Now, wherever they know that there could possibly be tunnels and caverns leading into, inner Earth, or what they say into inner Earth, into these underground cities, they always change it into a national park so they can control the exploration of these tunnels and these caverns. And Mammoth Cave is no different. They change it into a park and they try to create some rides and make some money off of it. But really, it's being done to control exploration because they don't want nobody doing any independent research under there that they cannot control. This is the same thing with the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon, to my surprise, is even more controlled than when I went there, years ago. Now, when you go there, first of all, you got to go through gates and you have to pay $30. If you're in the car, it's $30 to get in. To get to the one side of the Grand Canyon. Now, when you get there, it's basically so many reservations. Not so much reservations. You find stores and you find like lodges. It's campgrounds now on that one side when you go through the gate. Bunch of campgrounds, a bunch of lodges, and you see a bunch of kids there, a bunch of college kids, and a bunch of people out there camping. So the whole thing is, when you go up to the front, you pay to get in or whatever like that, and then you just follow the road and, you get to the parking lots and the visitor center and everything like that. And then, you know, you basically supposed to be able to see the Grand Canyon right then and there, but it's obstructed by these trees and the visitor center and everything like that. But after you get through it, you'll see, you know, bam, right in front of your face, the Grand Canyon. Now, there's another way you can get there from the other side. But if we try to come in from the other direction, there is really no roads. There is no gas stations. It's supposed to be a long trip to get to the other side, to come from the other side. And then when you get there, I mean, we're talking about a 1.5 mile drop into the canyon. So the best way to get into the canyon is, you know, the Colorado River. Now, if you go there, you can pay for, you know, rafting tours and hiking tours or whatever like that. But to even, you know, stay there, to camp there, you got to get a permit. If you have a film crew, you got to get a permit. If you want to stay there overnight, you got to get a permit. You need a permit so they can control your exploration. And according to the legend, the entrance to these underground cities is so far, so deep into the canyon that nobody, you know, can basically get there with enough supplies, enough water and food supplies to survive the trip. And the one way that was close enough is supposed to be blocked off. I took a trip there, and I wanted to basically get some video footage that we can have, so it's not somebody else's footage, so I can show you that I personally was there and I personally seen a lot of these things. I actually ended up taking 3 trips there because the weather was an issue. I was supposed to take a chopper. The wind was an issue, so I had to postpone it. And then the wind was an issue again. So instead of me just not going and canceling the whole trip together, I just drove up there. So as I said, you'll see in the video, you know, when we approach the gates, you know, take a look. Everybody see how you got to get to the Grand Canyon, how they got it set up to where you got to pay to get through. Just go right up through. Okay, so we know in 1907, supposedly, an archaeologist came down here who was doing some kind of exploring and found an entrance to what is said to be an underground, you know, city, ancient Egyptian city. So we know they're supposed to have found Egyptian artifacts there, also Hindu and Buddhist artifacts as well. If you look at some of those pictures, you'll see this one picture looks like inside of a cave with a huge Buddhist statue. So, you know, most of the people who come here talking about that, you know, what the artifacts they found. We're talking about 1907. Now, supposedly between 1907 and 1909, you had the Smithsonian supposed to came here and removed all of the artifacts that was supposedly found here. Supposedly there was mummies and, you know, it was a tomb. It was supposed to be a huge crypt there. Gold and all kinds of stuff that they removed from here between 1907 and 1909. And this is what the stories talk about. So the Indian tribes that's here who talk about a time where they could go freely in this underground city. So this entrance is supposed to be about, you know, 1.5 miles down. It's supposed to be a hard way to get to this specific place. Supposedly, you're supposed to go down the Colorado River, and it's some kind of way where you can look up and see this supposed entrance. I know it was a shot that you can see like these holes that in the side of the Grand Canyon. You can see in the mountains and everything like that. So a lot of people say that's an entrance, or it pertains to the area that they are talking about. Right over my shoulder is the pyramid-shaped mountain that you see a lot when you look at pictures of the Grand Canyon, and it's the one that they look to the most as supposedly being a pyramid. It's pyramid-shaped. It is beautiful when you take a look at it. A lot of these mountains around here could be pyramids when you take a look at them. There's a lot of pyramid-shaped mountains around here. But the whole thing is, you know, they wanted to check to see that the pyramids align with the stars on Orion's belt, like in Kemet. But they don't align with the stars on Orion's belt. They do, however, align with the rest of Orion when you take a look at the points. you can see it lines up with the Egyptian named mountains that are here in the Grand Canyon. You know, it's everywhere. Now, I played the clip before about one Indian guy who was talking about a time where that they had came and hid in the Grand Canyon, where they came to hide from some kind of cataclysmic event, as I was talking about before in the other parts. So supposedly they came here to hide when something happened here. And you have to really think about it now when they're talking about hiding during some cataclysmic event. How long ago was this event? So the sun is beginning to set here, and I want to finish up this quick part. The thing is, they supposedly had blocked off the real entrance to the underground city, what have you. And the only way to get there, you know, is by foot. You can't get there supposedly by chopper. You can't get there by no kind of vehicle. You have to hike your way in there, supposedly. And they say that, you know, it takes days. And, you know, when you look at the other side of the Grand Canyon, if you was to come from the other side of the Grand Canyon, you know, there's really no roads, there's no gas stations or stores or anything for you to stop and, you know, get supplies. So we talk about a long journey, you know, if you want to bypass all of this tourism and, you know, cottages and camping grounds and stuff like that. No camera does this place justice. Nothing. You have to come here. You got to see it for yourself. You got to really take a look at it. But then you got to really get into the mystery of this place and everything that's here. Like you really start to think when you see the carvings and when you look at the, you know, pyramid-shaped mountains and everything like that. And the fact that they named a lot of these mountains after the ancient Egyptians, like, you know, Osiris and Isis and stuff like that. So it really gets you thinking. And the tour guides will talk about that, and other people talk about it when they come through here. So now, one of the things that you have to really take a look at, and this is what has people who really do research looking at the Grand Canyon hard. I mean, look at this wall here. Just take a look. Now, if I take a fork and I scrape the fork up against the wall, you're going to see the marks from the fork. So you're going to be able to tell that it was some kind of instrument that did this. Now, look at the walls here. Look at the uniformity of the lines all the way around. I mean, it's uniform. You can see the scrapes as if something hit it or carved it out. See these lines here? I mean, take a look at that. It's uniform. I mean, you can measure them. So it's as if, I mean, look down there. Take a look at this. Let me see if I can get this in here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so now when you step back and start looking at everything, we know, I talked about in part 3, how humans and dragons or dinosaurs did coexist. Now, we know that according to them, the dinosaurs was killed off by some kind of cataclysmic event or a meteor or what, you know, millions of years ago, according to them. Now, we also have ancient civilizations. We have the Indians saying that they had to go and hide underground because of some cataclysmic event. Now, we can guess that this had to be the same cataclysmic event that killed off most of the dinosaurs and forced people underground. Has to be the same event. So we're talking about all this stuff had to have happened, you know, sometime after the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx were built, because they basically survived that, you know, event. Whatever happened, it survived it, forced people underground. And when the ancient Egyptians came out, they could see the pyramids still there, but they obviously was damaged and not working. But I believe the land was still fertile. But now, as I said again, this raises too many questions. You would think that if they would build something that would stand the test of time, like the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx that survived, you know, flooding and water erosion and everything like that, that they would build themselves a city on the surface as well that could stand up to any kind of cataclysmic event. But we don't find the ruins of any civilization older or as old as, you know, the Great Pyramids that's, you know, more advanced. Because you would think that they would build themselves a city that's more advanced than the Great Pyramid, you know, a huge, unbelievably technologically advanced civilization. This is why, you know, a lot of people believe in, you know, Atlantis and Lemuria and stuff like that. that they, sank underwater, but this is where they had their huge, advanced civilization, but it sank. But then you would have to look at the rest of the world, which is still so vast, and then ask, why not build in other places as well, especially in Africa, when Africa seems to be the best place where you should build. Now, because of that, this is another reason why people believe in the whole hollow earth theory. They believe that there are massive cities in hollow earth underground, and it's a lot to support that. Now, for people who don't want to accept any of that, they just say, well, aliens built the pyramids for whatever reason. Now, the whole thing that crushes the whole aliens building the pyramids theory is the fact that the ancient Egyptians who came out after the cataclysmic event, we can see clearly that they tried to rebuild the pyramids. Now, if aliens built the pyramids, then why would they think that they can recreate them? They had to have had advanced knowledge. They had to have had an understanding of how to build these pyramids and the purpose of the pyramids in the first place, what they was doing as far as the negative ions. They understood this. They had to have this advanced knowledge somehow, which is what I talked about in 2 and 3, how they were remember the whole parable, man, know thyself. They were starting to remember who they were. So this played, a major part in that. But if aliens built it, there's no way they would have thought that they can actually go ahead and recreate the pyramids. But, it's some unbelievably weird, crazy stuff going on. I've been doing this research for, years now. And, it's led me, to so many different places. And, hopefully you guys can take this research and hopefully it's filling in a lot of gaps for you. But in my research, the whole hollow earth theory fits. I'm going to explain why. I already really explained why, but I'm going to get into it a lot more. Now, if you can't accept the hollow earth theory, then you will have to accept the fact that mankind was put on this planet about 8,000 years ago. Let's just ballpark it and just say about 20,000 years. We wasn't on here for more than 20,000 years. The reason why you would have to accept that is because we just don't find any ruins that's that old. I'm talking about older than Haru and Maquette, in the Great Pyramid or whatever. We don't find any ruins. You would expect to see ruins of a major city somewhere predating the pyramids, predating the Sphinx.